Hey guys, it's me, Hexer. Today I want to share my thoughts about Battlefield 2018. First of all, we have to talk about the time it should take place in. For me it should be located around the Cold War. We got caught with the World War II and Battlefield 1 with World War 1 as the present game of those series. So somewhere between 1950 and 2000. Why do I think this would be better than a future or slightly postmodern setting? We have BF3 with some lock-ons, then we had BF4 with even more lock-ons and thermals and RNV and smart ammo and such shit. Imagine we had a future game. We would go into some sort of Titanfall level with self-aiming weapons, smart projectiles, even stranger countermeasures than APS, which makes a vehicle immortal for a short time. More lock-ons, more fire and forget stuff, more self-acting gadgets, more pickups like the Raw or the Rausch, with elite classes in BF1, even Titans and such shit are not out of the equation. Elite classes are already a pain and, in my opinion, one of the biggest flaws of BF1. Making them even stronger in BF 2018 would be a nightmare. So, in order to make the game less casual, which would have been a great opportunity given in Battlefield 1, but DICE failed miserably on that one. You set it not in the future and stop all the lock-on and everything is aiming for you. We have set the time for the game in and around the Cold War. For diversity in fights, weapons and maps, we got the different wars in that time. The Korean War, the Vietnam War, Six-Day War, Cambodian-Vietnamese War, the Gulf War, and dozens of revolutionary or civil wars. In addition, you could let some of the standoffs escalate, for example, let the Americans invade Cuba after the Bay of Pigs operation like it was planned, or the standoff in Berlin. So for the maps. Korea with a more European nature, but with the weather, which is a big focus of DICE, you can get the monsoon or the strong heat of Korea too. You could also let North Korea take it and have an American counterattack with a landing like Russian Karg Island. And some city warfare in Seoul or Berlin. Desert maps in Afghanistan or Syria or Israel. Tropical maps and rivers of Vietnam, mountains with the rebel cities of Havana or Trinidad. And the landing in the bay in Cuba. Imagine a nicely made Havana with the old timers, the bright colors, some palms and such. It would be great. With those many different stuff, you also get many different nations. With EA and DICE having a big focus on DLCs, there are many different ideas for that. To have a nice mix of maps and diversity for the vanilla maps, we need different styles and locations for that. So let's look at an example. There were 10 maps in the vanilla edition of BF4. So for example, landing in Korea, village fight in Korea, tropical war in Vietnam, city warfare in Berlin, a prison map like Lockers, many options to choose from as there were many jails for political opposition, for example. You could also take a gulag for it if you wanted to. A map in the mountains of Cuba or Afghanistan, and another map like Havana, Budapest, Hanoi or Athene. Yeah, some city map. A Vietnamese river would be an option too, or the mention of a dictator. If you wanted, you could even let everything escalate and let the Soviet Union and USA fight directly. For DLCs, you could make a Civil War, a Revolution DLC or a DLC for every location and have 4 more maps for Cuba, 4 more for Vietnam, 4 more for Afghanistan, etc. to round out the experience in those locations. For example, you could also make an inside and an outside map of the prison map. In Russia you would have stages inside and outside like the prison escape in BF4 single player. Or like the tunnels in Damavand Peak on Rush in BF3. While we are at it, let's talk about the single player. BF4 and BF3 had pretty bad single players on a story aspect. I like the different stories in BF1, so let's stay with that. We need vehicles because that's what Battlefield defines. We need infantry. I would like some spy and hide, and revolutionary missions. You can have air fights or with tanks, yeah, and jump off with hundreds of others in parachutes like in BF3. Just to get the feeling of the big battles and what the Frostbite engine can actually do. I'm still saying that we need a tutorial for new players to play before they are able to go to the multiplayer. Otherwise you end up with players not knowing anything about the game, or yeah, like how to revive with 100% or how to throw ammo or health down. So, to keep it historical, we start with the recruitment and training of volunteered exile Cubans in Guatemala by American forces. We also base the stories on real persons' experiences, like it was done in BF1 if I recall correctly. You don't have to copy their stories or the persons themselves. You can also combine different stories just to make a better, if it is better for the story or the gameplay. There you learn everything you need to know, how to play the game and such. You get a small group of people to support. It also makes space for story and some dialogues about the reasons of the volunteers and the conflict. You could even let the protagonist die in the battles after the landing, killed by a sniper for example. Then you switch sides, be a soldier and fight for Castro. As the soldier gets to the bay on a truck, which means more time to explain the historical context, you meet the sniper on the truck who killed you in the first mission. So you see both sides of the medal. A rescue mission in a prison with a few opposition people would be an option too. A mission to steal important informations where you have to stay hidden to help out the revolutionary forces or the government. Works for both sides. A landing mission with the Americans in Korea or in Cuba for example, fighting their way through the villages. Riding down a Vietnamese river on a boat like Rambo to get someone out or in, or to take a special point behind enemy lines. Let the player walk through the jungle. Let him feel the anxiety from mines and certain attacks. Let the enemies attack as guerrilla. Let members of my group die. Play with the anxiety of the soldier because he doesn't know whether someone is friendly or an enemy, as it was and is usual with guerrilla fights. Let him see the consequences of Agent Orange in Vietnam. To not have the missions and stories so clear cut, you could sew them together by a family story. For example, you play dad and son. The father fought in Korea and the son in Vietnam, and his son in the Gulf War. Or the widow of our first character, the volunteered Cuban, marries again and has a son with an American who fights in the Gulf War and is in the squad of the other son of in the Gulf War. Of course, a real story writer and with a lot of research, you might get actual stories like that to back it up with facts. Adding music of the time for the jeeps and the multiplayer like in Bad Company 2 would be great and only add to the immersion and feel of the game. Now let's talk about the multiplayer. We can all agree on BF1 being too casual. So, make Battlefield hard again. Force the players to use different shooting techniques. Increase the recoil, for example, but reduce spread at the same time, like double the recoil of a Scar H with heavy barrel. Delete the option to change the field of view, as it has impact on the spread and recoil, as we know. Just set it to 90 and it's fine. People will get used to it. The weapons can fail sometimes in single player to make it realistic, especially after you swam through a river, got caught in the monsoon, laid in the mud or sand, etc. But not in multiplayer. The players have to be visible in every map, as it otherwise would only support camping. I mean, there's nothing worse than someone laying on the ground in some bushes and you can't see them. You can't. Imagine a full map with such people. In the campaign, the enemies can be well hidden, as it then plays tricks on the minds of the players with some additional sounds of the rainforest. Onto the weapons and customization. As Battlefield 1 wasn't full of that, I would like to see a bit more in the next Battlefield. No option to change the looks of vehicles as in Hardline though. The only option should be different map matching paints, which makes it useless, but the vehicles could have different paints themselves, which are randomly applied. Different mixes of greens, browns, blacks, greys, whatever. Like different armies or the same army but in different times or setting has different paints. As we wanted to make it harder and simpler at the same time, we have the option to use sights, but not as advanced, as the first electronic sights like the RDS or the ACOG were invented around the 70s and 80s. For the campaign it means you get better weapons and such as the campaign moves along, but you can have everything in the multiplayer. I would also like to see a comeback of rocket launchers from Bad Company 2, with the same stats and uses. There was one mostly for vehicles, the 84, which basically was a straw, so you could aim it while it flies. You had the RPG, which is more against, which is like the middle against infantry and vehicles, while the 84 was pretty bad against infantry. And you had another one which was pretty shit against vehicles, but really good at infantry. So like a Quake rocket launcher. In Battlefield Hardline we got the nice gun range to change everything and about our gun. Personalizing would be great, for example the sights with our color, shape and size. So you can have a bigger point for the Coyote, but a smaller Cobra sight, whatever you want. You could also let the player carve something in his weapon, like a little tag, or as in the CSGO name tags. They already did it with the skins in BF1. There were some carvings on the side, so you can give your gun a name or show the amount of kills you got with it. You should also be able to change the tune on the radio of land vehicles. Everyone in the car then has to listen to the short playlist of a driver. For example, 3 to 4 songs from the 12 or 16 you can choose from, then the others get played randomly. Also, I would like to go back to 4-man squads if there are 4 classes again. 5-man squads if there are 5 classes. For the classes in the upcoming Battlefield, they should be depending on one another. Let's take the 4-class system as an example. I like the approach of Bad Company 2, where the medic gets the LMG, the supporter gets the assault rifles, engineers get the carabines like in BF3, and the sniper gets the sniper rifles and DMRs. PDWs and shotguns are for all classes. Like in Hardline, it should be possible to go up to a medic or support and get the support you need from them, even if they don't drop you anything. So if you take it from them, he doesn't get any points for it, and on the other hand you only get ammo, so no grenades or gadgets, and 50% health back from him. You can obviously go to another support or medic and get another 50% or more ammo, but no gadgets or grenades. That way we also limit the nade spam. So on top of that, we put it in a system which makes the reload times for grenades and gadgets longer, the more often you use them, but with a decreased timer. So for example, you throw a grenade, you sit on an ammo pack, and it takes 30 seconds to get a new grenade. You throw it, and you have to wait a minute to get another grenade. You throw it, you have to wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever. And if you wait a certain time, let's say you have thrown the first one, then you have reloaded after 30 seconds, and you throw the second one, then you have to wait, let's say a minute and a half, then you get the 30-second reload timer again. The medic shouldn't be the first to rush in, because that kind of defeats the purpose of a medic. There is no use in a medic who sits at the front and dies first. I mean, the medic should take guys back from the front, or heal them up or whatever, so he actually has to stay alive to do that. In order to achieve that, he got a heavy LMG, which should let him to be a bit more defensive. Snipers should be able to play aggressive with special rifles that have the 12.5 meter one-hit range of BF3, but don't kill with a single headshot after a certain distance like this got elite in BF4. So you force someone who takes this weapon in close range or in a certain distance, so you can't have a sniper for all of it. Other snipers cannot one-shot up close, but kill always with a hit in the head. To make it harder to kill with a sniper rifle, there should be a bit more bullet drop than BF3 and the same bullet speed. The bullet speed isn't based on stats at that, but on feel. The sniper bullets in BF3 felt a lot slower than on BF1, for example. There shouldn't be any sweet spot or bullets slowing down the further they fly, or falling faster while flying, as it makes it pretty random whether you hit or miss the target, in my opinion. Instead of not giving any bonus for a headshot on a certain range, I would limit the points you get for it. Let me explain. From 50 to 500 meters you get the range in points, but it's capped at 500 points. So you hit a headshot on 50 meters, you get 50 points. On 100 meters you get 100 points, 500 meters 500 points, 1000 meters 500 points. By that you promote headshots and the distance I think a sniper should operate in. But also don't promote camping at the end of the map, which isn't really objective oriented. You can also lower the 500 meters to 250 if you wanted to, which in my opinion is still enough for a sniper. A problem are vehicles, especially choppers, as there are not really high buildings or anything else to really hide behind like in most BF4 maps. So they might not be as strong as in BF4. They might be more like Golmud railway maps, where the chopper isn't really effective. Same goes for cover for infantry and destruction of cover. In my opinion, the destruction in BF4 and BF1 was too much. In BF3 the destruction also created new, sometimes even better cover. There needs to be a lot of undestructible cover in the maps, and they have to be tactical to use too, so you don't get stuck in the middle of nowhere. This might actually be a harder problem. I won't talk much about vehicle balancing and such, as I don't really know about that. Some last words about the map design. I like that DICE gets inspiration from reality, but there is always, those real locations were not built or meant to be a battlefield. They were not meant to be a map. Sure, you should maybe be able to get inspiration from that, but don't copy them just simply into your in your sandbox. Sure, it might look good, and you might see some parallels between the map and reality, but there's a difference between reality and a good map. There's a difference between that. After such a long monologue, I want to close this video. We will see what DICE has in store for us. What do you think about my opinions and ideas for the next Battlefield? Tell me in the comments about it, and what do you think will the next Battlefield be like, or what things I should add here. You sometimes have to go away from reality to make a good game. There's nothing like, yeah, just copy history and you have a great game. Like I said with the maps, it just doesn't work. With that being said, have a nice day, and let me show you a magic trick.
And I'm gone. It's magic.